On the 13th of December 1990, the semi-naked body of 33-year-old Mary Lou Pratt, a well-known hooker, was found on the 8,800 block of Beckleyview in the Oak Cliff district of Dallas, a neighborhood known for drugs and prostitution. She was wearing only a t-shirt and a bra, which had been pulled up to expose her breasts, and she had been shot in the back of the head with a .44 handgun. When an autopsy was performed, the medical examiner found that she had been badly beaten, and her eyes had been removed with almost surgical precision, leaving barely a mark on the surrounding tissue. They had not been gouged out in a fight, but had seemingly been taken as a bizarre memento, or something stranger might be at work. From the birth of photography until well into the 20th century, forensic scientists seriously investigated the pseudoscience of optography. This was the belief that the last thing a dead person saw was imprinted on their retina. If this optogram could be retrieved in the case of a murder victim, it would be possible to obtain an image of the murderer. It was a technique used unsuccessfully in the search for Jack the Ripper, and in earlier times, murderers had been known to remove the eyeballs of their victims just in case. Otherwise, there were few leads to go on, but it was rumored that Mary Lou and another prostitute named Susan Beth Peterson had stolen goods from the warehouse of a customer who might have had a grudge against them. However, detectives were unable to find out who he was, and the trail of the eyeball killer went cold. Around the same time, another prostitute named Veronica reported that a man had raped her and tried to kill her. She had managed to escape, but was left with a vicious head wound. On the 15th of December, she was seen in a light blue truck. Figuring that the driver might be the man who had attacked her, the police stopped the vehicle, but Veronica insisted that the man had actually rescued her from her attacker. He called himself Speedy, and his driver's license gave his address as El Dorado Avenue nearby. He said he lived there with his wife Dixie, and maintained that he and Veronica were just friends. On the 10th of February 1991, the semi-nude body of 27-year-old Susan Peterson was found on the same street. Her top had been pulled up to reveal her breasts in the same way that Mary Lou Pratt's had been. She too had been shot once in the back of the head, once in the top of the head, and once more in the left breast, with the bullet entering her heart. Again, her eyes had been removed. 2 days before she died, she had told patrol officers that she might know who Mary Lou's killer was. Veronica then claimed that she had actually witnessed Pratt's murder, but she was a known liar. Pratt and Peterson were white, but on the 18th of March, the body of 41-year-old part-time prostitute Shirley Williams, an African-American, was found. Williams had been shot in the top of the head and through the face. Once again, her eyes had been removed, but this time more roughly, and the broken tip of an X-Acto precision knife was found. Shirley's face had been slashed. She was badly bruised, and her nose was broken. That night, it appears, she had been getting high on drugs with friends before going out. It had been raining, so she had put on a yellow raincoat. She was last seen getting into a car. Earlier, she had told her daughter that she would be home that night, but she did not return. In none of these 3 cases were any fingerprints or semen found. However, among Williams's pubic hairs, the hair of a Caucasian man was found, and the ballistics lab determined that the same gun had been used to kill Williams and Pratt. Desperate for a lead, The police thought they would follow up on Speedy. The address on his driver's license, they discovered, was a property registered in the name of Fred Albright, but he was dead. A woman then came forward with her suspicions. She knew Charles Albright, Fred's son. He had told her that he was a professional con man and had showered her with gifts. Although he was married, he moved her into a love nest, but she had become increasingly disturbed by his behavior, particularly his obsession with eyes and knives. Eventually, she had moved out and moved on. She also said that Albright had known Mary Lou Pratt. Veronica and another prostitute who had escaped by spraying an attacker with mace were shown a photograph of Albright. Both recognized him as the man who had attacked them. On the night of the 22nd of March, the police went to Albright's house on El Dorado and arrested him for attempted murder and assault. They also took in his wife Dixie, but Speedy did not live there. It was only the address on his driver's license. In Albright's home, the police found red condoms. One had been found by Shirley Williams's body. They also found some X-Acto knives like the one used to remove the eyeballs of at least one of the victims. Albright denied having a gun, but the police found a .44 Smith & Wesson revolver. Dixie was shocked that her husband was wanted in connection with such horrendous crimes and provided him with an alibi. On the nights concerned, she said, he had been at home in bed with her, though he did have an early morning paper round. She did not know why he had condoms, as she had passed her menopause, nor did she know he already had a criminal record, including a conviction for sexual assault. Albright denied knowing anything about the murders, nor did he consort with prostitutes, he said. Speedy, it turned out, was one of Albright's tenants, but he denied that Albright was the man he had rescued Veronica from. But detectives kept digging. It seemed that Albright had been seeing prostitutes behind his wife's back, though he had once said he hated prostitutes and wanted to kill them. He had a fierce temper, and apart from his paper round, he lived off Dixie, who was a widow. Clearly, he was a manipulative, intelligent charmer. Born on the 10th of August 1933, Charles Albright had been adopted as a child. When he got his first gun, he would kill small animals and stuff them. He told a doting adoptive mother that he wanted to be a taxidermist. She encouraged him, but would not let him complete his taxidermy projects, making him leave his stuffed animals without eyes because the glass eyes in the local taxidermy shop were too expensive. Although Albright graduated from high school with good grades, he got into North Texas State University by underhand means, using forgery. He was then arrested for stealing some money, a rifle and 2 handguns, and was sentenced to a year in jail. Released, he continued his education. At Arkansas State Teachers College, he cheated in exams and bragged about his sexual prowess. When a flatmate broke up with a girl with distinctive almond eyes, he cut the eyes out of her photograph and pasted them on the photograph of his chum's new girlfriend. Other pictures of eyes were stuck on the ceiling and in the bathroom of their apartment. Before graduating, he was expelled from college for stealing, so he forged a bachelor's and master's degree. Found out he was sacked from his teaching job. He then married his college girlfriend and they had a daughter, but the marriage soon fell apart and they divorced. Caught stealing again, he was sentenced to 2 years, but served only 6 months. Visiting friends, he was accused of molesting their 9-year-old daughter. He claimed he was innocent, but pleaded guilty to avoid the hassle of having to defend himself, he said, and escaped with probation. His probation officer said that he lied so readily that he often convinced himself that he was telling the truth. Having inherited property from his father, he squandered money on prostitutes. He also gave them things he stole. After he met Dixie in Arkansas in 1985, she invited him to come and live with her. He accepted and let her pay all the bills. His only contribution came from his paper round, which was largely an excuse to get out of the house to visit hookers. Off the road. Despite his shady background, the case against him began unraveling. The .44 Magnum found in his house was not the one used to kill Mary Pratt and Shirley Williams. No blood or any other evidence of murder was found in his house, and Dixie produced garage bills showing that their car was off the road when the first two murders occurred. A stash of pornographic material was found in Speedy's house. Albright had a key and, it seems, used the place when Speedy was away. Hairs on blankets from Albright's truck and in his vacuum cleaner came from an African American, but there were not enough of these to identify them as coming from Shirley Williams, given the DNA technology at the time. Even so, on the 26th of March, 1991, capital charges were brought against Albright for the murders of Mary Pratt, Susan Peterson, and Shirley Williams. Then Mary Beth, a prostitute in custody, told the police that on the night Mary Pratt had been killed, a man had forced her into a car at knife point. He drove her out to a field, threw her to the ground, and kept punching her. Then he opened a case, got out a knife, and slashed open her blouse. He discarded the blade. While he searched for another one, she passed out. When she came round, he was gone. Interviewing other prostitutes in the area, the police came across a girl called Tina, who had beautiful eyes and said Albright had once been a regular client, but she dropped him when he got rough. On the night Shirley Williams died, Albright had driven past the two of them. Tina had got into another car, so did not see if Albright picked Shirley up, but when she got back, Shirley was gone. She took the police to a field where Albright used to take her. There they found a yellow raincoat like the one Shirley had been wearing on the night she disappeared. It had blood on it. Willie Upshaw, who was serving time for the illegal possession of a firearm, said that Albright had another .44 which the police had not found. He had bought it using his father's name. Upshaw had also been with Albright the day his car had broken down, and said that he did have a car on the night Shirley Williams was killed. A grand jury was called. They reduced the capital charges to murder in the second degree, taking the death penalty off the table. The district attorney then decided only to go ahead with the case of Shirley Williams. The trial began on the 2nd of December 1991, with the judge ruling that the other cases could be brought up in court to show a pattern of behavior. The prosecution maintained that Albright was enraged after Mary Pratt and another prostitute had ripped him off. Another prostitute testified that she had been with Susan Peterson when Albright picked them up and beat them savagely. However, the yellow raincoat the police had found had gone missing. Neighbors testified that Albright did not have a car at the time of the murder. Upshaw changed his story, and Veronica appeared for the defense. The case depended on the forensics and the scientific evidence concerning the hair, but it was enough for the jury to convict Charles Albright for the murder of Shirley Williams. The verdict was not reversed on appeal. He was sentenced to life imprisonment and died in the John Montford Psychiatric Unit in Lubbock, Texas, on the 22nd of August 2020, aged 87. To the end, he was unapologetic. "You won't find any woman who'll say anything other than that I was always a perfect gentleman in their presence," he said. "I was always trying to do things for women. I would take their pictures, I would paint their portraits, I would give them little presents. I was always open for a lasting relationship." He maintained his innocence to the end, and some believed him. "Look, I've known Charlie for 30 years, one Albright friend, a retired Baptist minister, told Texas Monthly. "In all that time, I think I would have seen his dark side slip out at least once. Believe me, if he really was a psychotic killer, he couldn't have kept it a secret all this time, could he? But then some people can see no evil. What's more, the missing eyeballs were never found." "I don't think anybody would want to keep eyeballs," Albright said. "That would be the last thing I would want to keep out of a body. It would be a hand or a whole head maybe if you were a sick artist and you thought the woman was fabulous. You might not want to see that beauty go to waste." If Albright was innocent, perhaps the retina of those eyeballs did have the real murderer's image imprinted on them.